One, two, three, and boom, a feast fit for kings right on your table. Don't believe me? Wait until you see these 75 super simple dishes that use only 3 ingredients. You might not recognize these quick recipes because they've disappeared from our everyday meals, but I'm here to resurrect them. Let's get started. The entire premise of this roller coaster is that these dishes barely take anything from you, any money, time, or effort. With just a little bit of the work, you can make stuff like baked egg cups and get 3 times the value for your money you otherwise would. After all, instead of those curries, stews, and pizzas, this just takes 3 whole ingredients. Everything you'll find on this list is built conveniently like that, and it tastes pretty good despite the minimal effort. Here you can expect a flavorful combination of eggs layered upon bacon, a combo I know you don't want to miss at the family table. How does something like that feel when you bake it with some cheese? What does the dish start to look like if you substitute one of those core 3 ingredients? That's the beauty of these dishes. They can be anything you'd like them to be. You just need to trust in your vision. Plus, every doctor tells you over and over that you need more eggs in your diet, and it's like, okay, I get it, but that doesn't make eating them any more fun. On the flip side, all the best coaches and trainers will tell you that enjoying what you eat is the most important part of keeping a diet. Personally, I'm starting to see where their rhetoric is coming from. This is definitely better than boiled eggs. Maybe you want to start your day off on a citrusy note and start it right too. You know, refreshing, clean, light, all that good jazz. In that case, you need a morning tonic, and not just any old dusty recipe with sparkling water. You need the real thing. I'm talking lemon juice, honey, and ginger. It's a 3-ingredient pick-me-up, but it's got what you need, and it barely takes a minute to mix and shake, and voila, you have your tonic. As legitimate as anything you'd get out of a doctor, it's definitely something you gotta try at least once every now and then. The spiciness of the ginger gives it a kick, but the honey makes it roll into your taste buds with a sweet sensation, rounding it all off with a bright, citrusy afternote thanks to the lemon juice. It's good for your skin, it's refreshing, it costs barely anything, and it'll help your mornings go all the better. What's not to love here? I mean, if people are so willing to invest in Gatorade and other sports drinks that promise to replenish your electrolytes and provide up to thrice the hydration, why not put some stock in an actual healthy, all-natural tonic? Plus, it doesn't even feel like you're chugging some cheap drink. It actually feels and tastes good to sip. So you have a sweet tooth, but you have no patience for sticking with the delicate and sensitive process of baking. You need some easy recipes, and lucky for you, that's exactly what I'm peddling today. For you, my dear effort-allergic viewer, I have sheet pan granolas, which are actually so much better for you than you'll even think to realize. Don't worry, I hate baking too, and I especially hate eating oatmeal as it is. But with this combination, I can kind of get the best of all 3 worlds. Rolled oats are used as the base of the granola before nuts and seeds are added, finally topping it all off with a honey or maple syrup glaze that really helps the oats stick together and seal that crunchiness in. End result? You get your protein, your sugar, and your dry fruits together all in one, and it barely takes a minute of baking. Get a crunchy and nice granola going for literally none of the effort or money. Isn't it the most American thing ever to work smart and not hard? The thing is, we could all use a lot more oats in our diet than we normally have right now. It's not just the protein thing. They have a host of other benefits. You know how much fiber is in these things? That also has the added benefit of keeping you full for longer. You got to invest in different ways of getting it in your system to keep things fresh. Continuing the protein train, if you find yourself keeping the workout part of things on lockdown but not being able to manage the diet part of things, I got a protein skillet with chickpeas and eggs with your name on it. This one makes use of 3 simple things: chickpeas, eggs, and spinach, and it's just as good as it sounds. This is like a natural-born steroid, the kind of thing to send your muscles into high gear immediately and get you meeting those protein requirements without any of the prep work. Don't feel like whipping up a fillet of grilled chicken with mashed potatoes and prepping your meals a night in advance? Don't feel like subjecting yourself to scoops of protein powder? Get ripped the natural way and have the benefit of a superfood all in one. This is one of the most refreshing skillets I could recommend, and honestly, it's one of the best post-workout meals too. Plus, expanding your horizons past just meat as a source of protein helps a lot. You get to take in different benefits of all kinds of foods while you also get what you originally wanted in your diet. Sometimes a cut of steak is what you need, but sometimes it wouldn't hurt to try some peas and beans. Now, when it comes to dieting, some people like whole wheat instead of the usual, and for them, I have another skillet-based meal. Whole wheat no-knead skillet bread is exactly the sweet deal that it sounds like. Throw out everything you know about bread making because I'm about to actually blow your mind. You take whole wheat flour, yeast, and water, and that's it. You don't need to knead this bread at all. It just leaves on its own and rises perfectly, thanks to the whole wheat flour providing a nutty and reliable base for the bread. It takes just 3 things to make this loaf, but it's the perfect way to get bread on a lazy day when you don't feel like going all out or getting up and going to the nearest store just for bread. Also, sometimes you just don't have the ingredients to make a good loaf of bread, and in times like that, this is a way better alternative. This kind of bread started mostly in rural areas and in neighborhoods with a bit of a lower average income during economically stressful times, but it's because people coped in such innovative ways that we have lifesavers like this today. Let's add a lifesaver to your roster. A pizza roll can be the difference between sleep for dinner and a good night's rest with nice dreams and a full stomach, and I always want the second for you. I still know that pizza rolls aren't really the most reliable thing to have at late hours of the night, though, unless you just happen to regularly keep stocks of them, in which case, kudos to your dedication. For the more spontaneous viewer that makes their week as it goes along like I do, this 3-ingredient recipe for pizza rolls is a total lifesaver. You just need a simple dough, whether it's homemade or store-bought, any kind of your favorite cheese and a tomato sauce, and voila, you have yourself a pizza ready to go. It's a pretty simple one, but with just a bit of baking and good skills with rolling, you'll have pocket pizza wherever you go. Also, it doubles as the perfect snack to offer someone when they're hungry. You always want to be that guy who's quick with a bite to eat. You get places in life faster that way. Similarly, sometimes you need to cut back on the junk and eat a little bit on the greener side of things. Stuff like black bean soup has always helped out so much when it comes to cultivating a better environment for your body on the inside. And the fact that it's inherently so simple only helps it be more of an all-rounder that you definitely need in your arsenal. All you need for this is just your garlic, cumin, onions, and black beans. The garlic or cumin are up to you. You can pick which one to add between the two, but again, it's a very simple soup that is so beginner-friendly that even people with no cooking experience can get up and make some. It takes nothing and leaves you feeling a lot better and stronger than you otherwise would. So maybe invest in some black beans next time you go grocery shopping. Not really a soup person? Salads might be more your thing, in which case I have one that's also a pretty good starting point for people who don't have much time under their belt in the kitchen. Wedge salads are something you can make on any lazy day or when you're feeling low and don't want to spend a lot of time cooking. And let's be honest, we all have those days. One thing they don't tell you about cooking is that it kind of drains you, and you don't even feel like eating what you made afterwards. But of course, everyone has their own pace. Whatever your process is, though, a wedge salad will help it get along faster. All you need here is a wedge of lettuce, some blue cheese or ranch dressing, depending on what you're going for, and a few strips of bacon. You get smokiness, crunchiness from both the bacon and the lettuce, and a lovely dressing or melted cheese to tie it together. What's not to love here? Speaking of rolls, there's more than just the pizza kind if you're the type of person that enjoys a good wrap. Some people tend to lean towards the sweeter side of things, and for them, I have a wonderful delicacy known as banana peanut butter rolls. The bananas work as a sweet base here that really helps tie it all together when the final product is done, and the peanut butter adds a lot of richness to that base and gives this dish its signature nutty flavor that'll have you keep coming back for seconds. As for the wrap, you can use pita bread or tortilla, or even make it like a shawarma, depending on the kind of textures you like and how you prefer assembling your wrap. See, it's really important to have new, varied ways of switching up old classics. We've all become too familiar with bananas, peanut butter, and rolls, but if you throw all them together, you get to enjoy all of them in a way you haven't before, and that breathes some new life into a familiar and comfortable experience. It's a win-win all around, isn't it? This one's a bit of a fancier dish, so I wouldn't blame you if you skipped past because the theme so far is some pretty easy food that you can make anytime. But fancy doesn't mean complicated, and there's nothing complex about this goat cheese olive tapenade sandwich. All you need is sourdough bread, or really any kind. It's up to your preference, goat's cheese, and an olive tapenade, and you have yourself a delicious little sub that you can enjoy easily to fill up the tank. This dish has some Mediterranean influences because in that cuisine, not all sandwiches typically always involve meat. A lot of them are simple ones that use a few ingredients like this, but the satisfying crunch and the sourness of the olive tapenade with the sweetness of the goat's cheese make for such a compelling bite. It kind of made me wish Subway would start doing tapenades too, but it's good to have your own collection of homemade sandwiches different from what you get from your favorite takeout spots. Veggie noodle fritters are the next trend in healthy eating. They're the star of the show, the it girl, the one that makes everyone's head turn, and Thai dish manages to do it with only 3 ingredients. They're simple ones too. Have you ever heard of carrot noodles? They're a kind of vegetable noodles that really have their own earthy flavor and this super tender texture with a crisp exterior when you fry them. Plus, they look amazing when you do. That golden hue puts in work. The egg works as a binder, helping the Parmesan cheese stick to the noodles to really create the entire vibe and bring it together, while also giving it a creamy texture and a richness that only gets amplified by the Parmesan. All in all, it's one of the best ways to get more greens in your diet in a familiar and delicious way. I also really can't stress how good this dish looks. The spiralized, shredded vegetables, the bounded fritters, and the golden brown colors all make for an extremely appealing dish to look at. They have an amazing balance of style, taste, and textures, which makes this dish work on all fronts. Plus, we all could do with a bit more zucchinis every now and then, right? Here's another banana banger you may not be too familiar with. But don't worry, I'm here to get you acquainted with all the things that are in right now when it comes to the food world. Baked banana chips are these amazingly intense caramelized sweet chips that have the perfect amount of tang and crunch, making them the perfect thing to snack on while you chat away or just as a way to up your fruit game a little bit. The acidity of the lemon juice here really helps the sweetness not be overwhelming, and the salt also works kind of to the same effect. You may not be expecting this, but it actually helps to amplify the flavors of the banana itself. As for the chips themselves, they taste heavily of banana but also have these honey-like aftertastes, which make them addictive and keep you coming back for more and more. The best thing about stuff like this is that it's really out there for people with a sweet tooth. You get tired of the same rotation of ice cream, sodas, and other basic desserts. Sometimes you want a new experimental dish that takes new concepts and puts them up in interesting ways too, just like all the fans of savory get to enjoy regularly. Spinach green onion dip is a fantastic little side to your platter if you're looking to bring some immaculate personality and style into your dish. It's one of the best dips you can make, and it works so well with just about anything. Fries, beef, greens, peas, you name it, you can dip it. It's hard to believe stuff like this only needs 3 basic ingredients: spinach, green onions, and Greek yogurt or sour cream, and then you get this wonderfully sweet and earthy dip with sharp notes that have a lot of depth. If you look a bit closer into the taste, you'll find the tanginess and richness of the sour cream or the Greek yogurt enhancing everything about the dip and really bringing those green onions to center stage. It's one of the best ways to incorporate some spinach into your diet because otherwise it's a bit hard to eat, and I can empathize with that. See, Popeye made it look really easy, but spinach honestly takes a while to work into your diet. It's because we're just used to other kinds of greens. You've had collard greens growing up, so those aren't too bad. A bit of fried asparagus? Been there. Lettuce has been our day one since we've grown up with so many burgers. But what about spinach? There just isn't much honest representation for the dish out there. And that hurts it, because there's really a lot to love about this ingredient besides just the obvious superfood aspect. Nothing will ever separate us Americans from our beloved cheeses, but that's exactly why having new ways of enjoying the same old lovely cheeses is so important. Baked feta with honey and thyme might be a combination you aren't used to hearing, but it's one that will rock your world if you give it a fair shot. Feta cheese on its own is one of the most popular kinds of cheeses we have right now, especially if you go out for dining, so this kind of has an air of flashiness to it too. It has this salty intensity, but at the same time the cheese is so soft, it melts like butter in your mouth, especially when it's baked, and it works so incredibly well with honey. I never personally thought cheese and honey could go together that well, but the saltiness of the feta combined with the sweetness of the honey make this wonderful contrast. Kind of like when you hear a sick guitar riff over a slow, tone-setting drum beat, you know what I mean? As far as toppings go, there's nothing better to wrap this dish up with than thyme, which gives that perfect cover to both flavors so that neither step on each other's toes. That first bite starts with hints of thyme, but quickly follows a lovely mix of everything the feta and honey have to offer. Homemade Lara bars are one of the best things to go for if you're aching for a bit more caramel in your life or day. They actually end up using cocoa powder for a chocolatey note, but the main flavor profile here is definitely the dates and almonds working together to create a unique caramel flavor. The star of the show is the dynamic between the almonds and the dates, because while one gives you an insane nuttiness, the other gives you this lovely backdrop with its textures and flavors that help tie the dish together. All of that gets amplified when you mix in the bittersweet cocoa powder, and that's what makes Lara bars such an addictive snack capable of satisfying even the harshest of sweet tooths. Of course, a dessert doesn't exactly have to be unhealthy either, and dishes like this continue to prove that just because you like things on the sweeter side doesn't mean you have to trade away your health for it. You can definitely have both, and people have been living happily that way for so much longer than we can ever realize. If you ever feel like indulging in your sweet tooth in some health-conscious ways, try this recipe out. You've all heard of jalapeno poppers, so I don't really need to introduce them, but a lot of you may not be too familiar with how they're actually made. See, you hear the description of them and you immediately think, yeah, this is above my pay grade. I wouldn't blame you. It sounds like a lot of prep work after all, doesn't it? You gotta scoop out the jalapeno and empty it, then you have to make this delicate stuffing and get it all in there too. While I wouldn't be surprised if the technical part threw you off just a bit, it's nothing that should stop you from taking full advantage of this format. Jalapeno peppers. Just take cream cheese or cheddar and then some bacon. While people consider bacon to be optional, let's be honest, what's spice without some good meat? Exactly. Plus, the bacon works so well with the exterior of the peppers. Also, if you're feeling extra freaky, you could always leave a few jalapeno seeds in there when you're scooping it out to amp up the spiciness 10 times more. It really helps, not just with your health or as an affordable meal, but also as a mood booster. You know, spices help us be happier because they release endorphins? Just another reason to start investing in some greener, cleaner, and natural sources of food. You might be a biscuit fan, but like me, you could just detest the whole rolling and cutting dough aspect of it. I'm just trying to have a light snack. I don't want to deal with all that fuss. Sound like you too? You came to the right video, my friend, because let me introduce you to my personal life hack. Cheesy drop biscuits. These tender, gooey biscuits are the perfect breakfast or side dish, and they take none of the hassle that's usually associated with making biscuits. All you need is flour for the base of the biscuit, butter or shortening, whichever one you have, and your favorite kind of cheese. When you mix all this together, it automatically makes a sticky dough that you just need to season afterwards if you'd like, and then simply drop it all onto a baking sheet and check back in 10 to 15 minutes for some of the best cheese-based biscuits you've ever had. Seriously, these will redefine what a biscuit's potential is to you. Some people hold the opinion that salmon is a little bit too sweet as far as meats go. I kind of get it. It's not your average taste that you usually associate with meat. You think protein and your head immediately gets filled with the spicy and savory aspects of cooking. Salmon naturally is a sweater meat though, and dishes like chili-glazed salmon find the perfect middle ground between letting its natural flavor shine and bringing in those familiar notes you're used to so that it becomes a lot more accessible and comfortable to eat. The salmon is really rich and tender, which helps it to absorb glazes extremely well. So this dish was just a match made in food heaven. The chili sauce is mild, but it can be spicier depending on your tolerance. That kick of heat helps the salmon's flavor and richness shine through, while letting the first few tastes that come with each bite be very familiar. Plus, you mix all that with the soy sauce, and you have yourself a perfectly well-rounded dish. Great for the new seafood eater that's trying to acquire the taste and the passionate fish lover with a dedicated wardrobe set up in their basement for fishing supplies. The next two I have for you are some pretty sweet treats indeed. Fudgy Nutella cake to start us off is symptomatic of a pretty great ride, I think. Nutella's getting expensive, so I think just using it on slices of bread to make the same old chocolate sandwich might be getting stale. No disrespect if that's what your preference is. I've made some pretty fond memories with just that on many nights. But we can always try something new, you know? Take advantage of all the food that comes out with recent trends, and this is a pretty 2010-esque dish. Besides the Nutella, all you need is eggs, which serve as the perfect binder here, giving the whole thing structure and moisture, and then flour for additional stability. Once you mix all these together until they're this batter-like consistency, all you gotta do is pour what you made onto a baking dish and check back in half an hour for your wonderful hazelnut heaven. It's the ideal way to spend Saturday for a serious Nutella fan, and in general, it's just a great cake that doesn't take much at all to make, even for people who've never spent a second of their lives baking. Cinnamon sugar twists are just the ideal way to satisfy that sugar rush craving if you aren't looking to get too much into one kind of strong flavor. Sometimes, even between choices like vanilla, chocolate, and caramel, your heart just doesn't want anything like that. Lighter and warmer flavors like cinnamon work much better on those kinds of days, and puff pastries are the best stage on which cinnamon can shine. This pastry uses crescent dough, which is known for its buttery base and being really soft and airy on the inside. The sugar tends to melt and caramelize while the baking is happening, and it really helps strengthen that crunch on the exterior that we all love puff pastries for. Of course, the cinnamon sugar twists themselves work all of this in a lovely way, where everything coordinates with each other beautifully. They're a bit sweet. They're just a little spicy, but they're perfect for breakfast and desserts, and that's why people adore them to this day. That's why bakeries always have one cinnamon puff pastry going on, and that's why you see similar dishes in so many cookbooks. The clock isn't broken, needs no fixing, and works so much better than anything else you can find on the market. Mint chocolate swirl barks are a really lovely and trendy treat that make amazing use of mint, which honestly doesn't get enough love as it is in the food world. The best part about this is that it uses several layers, involves intricate decoration, and has a lot of flavors going on, but uses a maximum of 3 ingredients to achieve all of this. That's one hell of a trio, if you ask me, and the swirly patterns on this dish give it both its name and a lot of raw aesthetic appeal. Usually, people tend to use semi-sweet chocolate and peppermint oil, and once it's been melted, it gets poured into a baking sheet with parchment paper, and then using either a knife or a toothpick, you make the swirly patterns. Once the design's set, you just need to let it cool and harden, and then once it's solid, you break each piece by hand. It's almost slightly more fun to make it than it is to eat it, but only because you really feel like a fancy chef or artist with a knack for presentation whenever you get this right. Some people spice it up with crushed candy canes and chocolate chips. Okay, enough of the sweet stuff. As good as it is, it's not really something you can snack on every day. You know what works best for that, though? Corn tortillas, which are these amazing, authentic Mexican staples that literally just take masa harina, water, and some salt to make. Masa harina is a special type of corn flour that's made from dried corn that has been treated with lime or calcium hydroxide. And the entire logic behind that is that it keeps it fresher while also making it more flavorful. This is your star player, folks, because it's what gives these corn tortillas that signature flavor that gets you out of bed and into the street looking for the stall with the nicest aromas emitting out of it. Also, you know how swirls can make you feel real good when you get one, right? Well, it's not exactly the same level of attention to detail, but it takes a decent hand to shape a tortilla perfectly too, especially when it comes to dividing the balls into tiny-sized portions. Corn has always been something that people use heavily to pass the hunger with and keep it at bay, and that's been true even since before the Depression. But recently, corn-based dishes are making a comeback, and I couldn't be more here for it. A big reason why they've been having a bit of a resurgence is because of the new wave of health-conscious Americans being really picky about their food and treating their bodies like temples. Not gonna lie, very fair play on their part, because healthcare isn't getting free anytime soon, nor is it getting any less expensive. It might be time to put away the bacon for some salads instead, or the steak for cauliflower steaks, which are actually the next dish I wanted to talk about. Sounds controversial? Not really your thing? You'd be surprised what people can do with these, though. As far-fetched as it sounds, they didn't get so popular as a vegan alternative for nothing. There's a kernel of truth hidden somewhere in the statement that you won't be able to tell the difference between this and a real steak. I think the trickiest part when it comes to making these is just to nail the cross-cutting from the head so that you can get an even steak, but once you get it down, you've officially unlocked a wonderful new way to enjoy cauliflower. A BC pudding is actually a really lovely, creamy plant dessert that takes banana and cocoa powder and puts them together to make a secret third thing shine so much brighter than it ever could on its own. That would be avocado, and now you can probably guess where the name comes from. A for avocado, B for… yeah, you get the point. Anyway, so I know you're really in deep thought over this one because it's just such an out-of-pocket combination of ingredients. Like, who would ever think bananas and avocados could work even better if you threw cocoa powder into the mix? But hey, don't knock it till you try it, and I'm speaking from experience. I had the same reservations, but that first bite really gave me some food for thought, pun intended. The trick is to get the blending process down right because once you do, you'll know when to stop to get everything on the checklist ticked. Consistency, flavor, and thickness. All of it needs to work in order for this to reach its full potential. It might take you a few tries to get there, so the sweetness might be off. In which case, I know it breaks the theme just a little, but you can sneak in some vanilla extract to balance it out. Though remember, the goal here is 3-ingredient recipes, and this is one of the best ones out there. We're going to end our list by equipping you with a perfect breakfast that you can rely on any day of the week. A 3-ingredient ground turkey and egg skillet is a protein-packed meal that's versatile for any part of the day, but works best as a breakfast to get you started in high gear right at the crack of dawn. Once you cook the ground turkey in a large skillet, you just add the eggs. But remember to make small wells in the meat and then pour the eggs into each of those. Once that's done, you cover the skillet and then give it a good 5 minutes and you're ready to go. You can add seasonings besides salt and pepper, but a simple, easy, and quick 3-ingredient recipe is eggs, ground turkey, and generous helpings of pepper and salt. This is one of the best things to make when you're short on time and just don't have enough energy in the tank either to put up with making a full, complicated breakfast. If you're really looking to turn this into a 5-star comfort food experience, you can always add in some cheese, or if you want to boost the healthy factor even more, you can put in some sautéed peppers, onions, or spinach, which honestly bounces off the flavors of the turkey really well. Whatever you go for, this dish screams versatility and simplicity all in one, and that's what makes it such a go-to for so many people. That about wraps up our recap of 25 easy 3-ingredient dishes that need to be brought back. Which dish are you looking to recreate? Comment down below and don't forget to like and subscribe.